And we are recording Sunday, October 23rd, 2022 at 4:47 p.m. Eastern time. I had another podcast today. I just did one. Uh, but the other one wasn't for like another hour and a half. I feel like shit today, so I canceled that one. I'll reschedule it. I don't know why I'm explaining myself to you. I don't give a shit. My throat is so sore and I have a terrible headache. It's also kind of weird. It's what I just did. And we are recording. I always do the and we are recording because I start recording on Zoom and then I start screen recording on QuickTime Player. And it's never intentional. That's just kind of what I said. And now it's just I've done it so many times. It's what I say, and we are recording. And I do it kind of while I'm like talking to the guests. But I realized I'm not talking to anyone. And I hit record on Zoom and record on QuickTime Player. And then I just realized I said it almost reflexively. And we are, but normally I'm kind of saying and we because I'm actually like saying and as I'm dragging the mouse. But I just said it reflexively, which is kind of weird. Anyway, I don't even know if this is going to be a good solo rant. Um, wasn't planning on it until about 2 minutes ago. So I guess I'll just start talking. This is the worst thing is when I start thinking about that I have to do a solo rant. And now I'm choking up. Well, I guess what's on the forefront of my mind, I don't know if this would be fascinating at all. I really don't give a shit. I kind of want to talk it out in my own head, but do it out loud. Is kind of like the evolutions of the studio. And by studio, I mean a weird closet that I record in. The first iteration was just on a laptop above my parents' garage in a big echoey room. That was for 49 episodes. I think that was like for like the first like 20 episodes. And then starting around 21, I draped the American flag over the Bowflex in the background. That lasted from like 20 to episode 49. For episode 50, I turned the desk around so there was an immediate wall behind me. I hung up the flag and I actually put this chair together. I went and got it at Walmart, assembled it, put it together, and then interviewed Dale Comstock. And then around episode 290 or 300, I got a webcam from Apple. I got this microphone, and I got some. My little brother got me like a professional, like not professional. He got me like a nice like overhead like light, like a diffuse light, and so I liked it so much. I ended up buying like 5 more. And then I got some like black bed sheets, and I put them on either side of the flag to sort of like kind of give it a more uniform look. So that was, I guess, the third iteration. Um, and then I took a bunch of like bureaus and old tripod stands and made like a weird semicircle around the desk and covered them in moving blankets. And so it was like with this weird makeshift kind of acoustic barrier. And then the next biggest one is moving into my own apartment, hanging these moving blankets from the ceiling, cordoning off like a quarter of my bedroom. And then on the moving blankets, I pinned, which was very tedious, a lot of sound panels, and then as well as put them on the walls and the ceiling around me. Got the Sony DSLR camera, and then got even more lighting, and then got an M1 iMac last like June, and that upped the processing power. But it's getting another iteration. Uh, as much as I want to like jack up the video quality even more, I really can't justify it because one, no one really watches it, and two, the difference between 4K and 8K is kind of negligible. At least I think I have shitty eyes, but I remember when I was little and when we first started getting like HD channels, I think my dad got like the sports channel package. And me and my brothers would always have fun watching like the Red Sox on normal TV, what we'd been used to our whole life, and then finding the channel, which was I think like you take whatever channel it was and then add 700, and so you could watch like an NFL game or something. And the it was, and even that, I now in hindsight, it was like that was just like 1080p, but it was from like 480 or 540. and we'd find the two channels. So it'd be like 24 and 724. And then then you'd press the last button on the remote and it would bounce back and forth. We do it for news, we do it for movies, and it was always kind of cool just seeing the difference between the HD and the normal. And it was so dramatic. It was just brighter and crisp, and you were like, oh gee, like we'd walk in and we'd be like, hey, I think this is in HD. And it'd be almost like, what are you doing? Like, put it on HD, right? It was like getting pizza out of the fridge and being like, you can microwave it, right? Like it just adds a whole nother layer of like sizzling, and the cheese is hot and it's doughy. It's just like a whole, right? You have fries and it's like we got ketchup too. It's like you can just add another thing to it, where we have ice. There was just like another thing you could do to it. And I've watched videos of, now granted, I've never had an 8K screen, so how the fuck would I know watching a 4K screen or an 8K screen? But I mean, I've watched videos of people watching them, like, and I remember for the longest time deciding, like, should I be doing this podcast in 8K? Should I have an 8K monitor for myself? And the fact that these videos went on for 10 minutes and about 50% of the time they wouldn't even correctly guess which one was 8K. And I was like, well, that means 50% of the time you can tell. Then it finally dawned on me after several months. I was like, the very fact that it is not an immediate, you walk into the room and you go, put it on HD. Like there was just no, it was like switching from black and white to color. There was no like, there's this color. It just was or it wasn't, right? It's like if you ever had on Bose headphones, you turn on the noise cancellation. There's just a different level of crispness, right? Or like playing on a monitor, like a gaming monitor that's 60 FPS instead of 30. You can just tell. You can tell when the video on YouTube is 60 FPS and not 30. It just is. I don't, and it gets harder to detect difference between 60 and 90 and 90 and 120 and 120 and 240. But that initial jump is very apparent. The very fact that people didn't immediately look at the screen and go, that one's 8K, regardless of, if they're 50% correct or incorrect, the very fact that the answer wasn't immediate to me is all the explanation in the world. So that's not really not important. But I was looking at I think the company is Ursa, URSA. They have a 12K camera called I think it's Black Magic. And as much as I'd want it, there's no and then second of all, I don't think Rumble, because I'm not even on fucking YouTube. I don't think any of those platforms like allow higher than 1080p. BitChute doesn't allow more than 2 gigabytes per video file, which is why not all of the episodes are up, because some of the episodes in 480 SD are still too big. My head's really hurting. Which is just retarded. So there's really no need for it. So as much as I'd love to add a black magic, whatever the fuck it's called, camera, it's just retarded. The other thing is I found this microphone called the Sony 800G. That's $10,000 and has its own like heat sink. But like I think the difference is negligible. I think for a real audiophile, a real like audio head who's listening on like vinyl with like $1,000 headphones, that's probably different. But just for the average podcast, I really like some music is really like Angels and Airwaves. Like you want to put on headphones and lay down and listen. You can hear every little thing, and it's fantastic. It's very like intricate music. But something like Blink 182 or maybe Eminem, like you just kind of need to hear it. It's the same. There's like diminishing returns as it gets crisper. It's like, okay, but I'm still hearing the same like simplistic Blink 182 song. Fantastic, my favorite band, but it's not Angels and Airwaves where you want to hear like every little like violin and digital noise, right? Like you don't need headphones to listen to like the real Slim Shady. Maybe you do Rap God to hear every lyric, or like a podcast. Even like Tim Dillon, I listen to Tim Dillon every day. I don't sure when I put on headphones, I can notice like I can hear his like New York accent a little more. But like what? Okay. So there's really no purpose to any of that. All that being said, I am kind of planning how I'm gonna do it. A couple of the art pieces I've made, the ones that are have like rectangular dimensions, there's 4 of them. The Bob Lazar one, the 2001: A Space Odyssey one, the cherubs, and then the heroine social media one. I'm gonna get those printed out on canvas, like real nice canvas, like 6 feet wide. And I'm gonna get some like LED strip lighting to put around the border so it kind of is backlit. And I'm gonna have those flush with the sound panels on the wall. I'm gonna have 4 of them on each wall, and they're canvas, so they'll also act as like acoustic tiles. Um, and then I found these cool lights that they almost look like the Iron Man chest, but like the triangle, and they go in the corners, the top corners of the room, and they're flush with the wall, but there are these cool diffuse lighting. And I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna sound panel the whole room, unlike this little closet thing I have. I'm actually gonna do the whole room. Uh, I'm gonna put the flag like 10 feet behind me, so it's a little more out of focus. And then I think I'm gonna get red, white, and blue strip lighting to put behind the actual flag to give it like a cool glow. Um, and then along like the corners of the room. So on the ceiling, square, and then from ceiling to floor, 4 lines, and then on the floor itself, around the perimeter of the room, I think I'm gonna get like really faint LED lighting. So it almost the whole room kind of glows like a cube. So it's like all these sound panels, and there's just gonna be like a glowing LED cube that the whole thing is in, with these cool canvas paintings with not paintings, prints with that are my work. That's my digital art from before I even started the podcast. These huge 6 foot, they're in like 7,000 by 15,000 pixels with sort of diffuse lighting in the background. And then I think I'm gonna get like a gigantic like black shag carpet to put on the ground. I want the whole room just blacked out with like just a lot of cool kind of like loose LED lighting. Um, yeah, this I don't think this is really interesting to anyone. I don't really give a shit because I kind of need to just like talk this out just so I know what I'm doing. And because I can separate my bedroom from it now, I think my bedroom I'm just gonna like black out so I can like a cave so I can sleep in well. Um, and then I think I'm gonna take the gaming PC, and if I ever get an Xbox again, I'll put those in the living room. Because right now everything is on top of each other. Like my bed is like 5 feet behind this computer, and it's like I sleep there, I meditate there, I do my laundry there. The the closet's right there. I do the podcast here. I edit the podcast here. I upload it here. I offload it onto the hard drives, and then next to it is the gaming PC. I never really feel like I'm doing one thing. It always feels right on top of each other, and I don't really like that. I'd much rather it kind of be removed. So I am kind of excited about having a living room where I'll game, a studio where I will do the podcast, and the bedroom where I'll sleep and meditate. But I think that's kind of cool. I think that's kind of cool. And I don't know if you've ever seen that guy, Joey Toons, I think, Toonz. He's the guy that has the voice that sounds like he's a Goodfellas narrator. And he'd always cover like Instagram narcissists. He's been banned from YouTube several times because he says wrong think. And I've never watched any of his podcasts or anything. I'm sure they're fine. But I did watch this video of him last night, and at first it was just kind of sounded like the generic critique. And one thing I hate is I don't like when people just critique what's wrong with the world, because anybody can do that. If you're not offering a solution, then you're really no better than anyone. It's like someone who's looking at the Twin Towers on fire and being like, well, this is a fucking mess. It's like, no shit. I mean, you look in the mirror and you're like, I've gotten a lot fatter since I was 18. Congrats. Observation of the year. Like, what are you doing about it? Yeah, here's how I can change my diet. Here's how I can start incorporating cardio into my life. Here, I can start sleeping better. Here's how I remove processed carbs. Whatever. If you're not offering a solution, then just shut the fuck up. Because anybody can, it's the edgy college kid. We put our parents in nursing homes, and but we don't pay attention to kids. We just give them TikTok, and it's Facebook boomer humor. It's fucking retarded. So I kind of do hate that. And I also really, one thing I've also really fucking hated for all my life, really, but whenever you go watch those videos of like 1910 New York, and they're artificially colorized, and they kind of slow them down so they're not all like sped up like a silent film. They'll even add some sort of like faux audio, like the clopping of like the horses on like the streets, and like the Model T like sputtering by, like the ring ring of the trolley. You always see the same. You can go to any of those videos because it's no different than the solo rant's already just fading off into obscurity. But it's no different than if you look at any music video, any song, you can find the same exact fucking comments under every song. Doesn't matter if it's a song by Katy Perry last year or if it's a song from Blink 182 in 2016 or a Rage Against the Machine in 2005 or the Red Hot Chili Peppers in 95 or anything for any decade, you can always find the same exact comments. One, who's here in current month, current year. More commonly, back when they made real music. Or I was born in the wrong generation. Back when life was so simple. Shut the fuck up. It's not even original thought. Just shut the fuck up. In 20 years, there will be people commenting on the shit music made in 2022 and saying, back when artists cared. Back when people spoke their minds. Where you look at like the old videos of New York, and what do people always say? You look back in the 60s and it's a bunch of thin people at the beach and they're going, back when people took care of themselves. Okay, sure, they weren't as fat, but it's because they didn't have the fast food. It's not that they were categorically better than you. It didn't exist. It's not that the dog is well behaved back before my dog ate steak. No, that dog didn't have any fucking steak. Your current piece of shit dog is eating the steak because you're giving it to it. Back when people are thin. No, it's because everyone was just smoking all day and drinking butt heavy and beating the shit out of their wives. Like there just wasn't McDonald's, so you had to have a ham sandwich. Back when back when there's the nuclear family. No, it was right after World War II. If you survived and weren't blown to pieces, you came back, got the GI Bill, and said, fuck the Pacific Theater. I'm just gonna go work at the Ford plant, which I can awesome. But there is this general, you look back and you're like, back when it was so simple, and it's like that was also the same year that we were drafting 18-year-old boys to go to Vietnam and be burned alive by Viet Cong or have their dicks chopped off and shoved down their throats. Back when the president spoke eloquently, JFK was doing a ton of drugs for his back, was cheating on his wife in the White House, and had his brains blown out in Dallas. Like there is this, let's not forget like what just happened. Back, look at them. They're wearing their Sunday best to the baseball game. That's a year before women could vote in an election. Like, don't like penicillin was a hot new product then. Back when every car was made with craftsmanship. They also didn't have airbags, seatbelts, and they didn't have shatterproof glass or safety glass. If you got in a fender bender, your neck was broken or you were bleeding out on the cobblestone street where there was horse shit everywhere, which would get into your infection or your cuts and you die of infection anyway. So there is this general, like, I do really, the reason I'm prefacing all of this is because I don't want to just sound like some normie retard who thinks that like this take on how the past was better is anything but naive and not unique. Like I get it, right? You look at a Norman Rockwell painting and you're like, oh, yeah, it's just back when things are. They were also hosing down black people in the streets of Birmingham. Like, it's a lot. It's not what you thought. It's not what you thought. So, I have to preface all of that I have to preface with that because it's not a unique take to look at a picture of 1905 Chicago and be like, back when families knew how to dress. It's not, those are the only clothes they owned. They also all smelled like shit because they didn't have running water. Like, they were thin because they had no food. No old people in nursing homes because they were all dead. There's just, there is a difference. That being said, it's not completely void of its benefits. And that's what I want to get out is so although all these things should you need to be conscious of the fact that you are looking through this golden, glowing, nostalgic like I remember in college looking back at high school and I would look upon it so fondly. It was just 5 years in the rearview mirror. And I had this idea and I was like, well, now life sucks. I'm studying to get into med school all day, every day. And so I started keeping a journal, which I think I've lost, but I started keeping a journal. And I remember writing, I was like, you will be looking back on these days fondly. And I'm telling you right now, they suck. All I'm doing is working. I go out and drink at the bars like once every 6 weeks, but all I do is work. And now there was actually some, there is actually some merit to looking back at them fondly. I look back and I'm like, well, that was before my brother died. I was about to fall in love for the first time. Like there is some beauty to it. There really was. But I'm also happy I wrote that because I go back and look at it and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, that, just waking up, working out, and just studying OChem all day. And then I go read it and I'm like, I'm terrified. What if I fucking fail out? Like, I'm so, I have like a stomach ulcer and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I had to go to like the student health center and like, I had to take like amitriptyline and like muscle relaxants because I was giving myself migraines. And I was like, oh, that wasn't all beautiful. It's like I'm terrified, and then like as the journal goes on over the years, you start to see like the inner angst of like I'm not happy. I don't want to do this, but I'm too scared to do anything else. I look back at it now, I'm like, that's not, versus just my memories. I'm like, oh, back at the days of UGA. Versus I look at it and it's like I'm horrified, I'm in crippling debt, I'm having panic attacks. Like it's just like, oh, 2011. Oh, you're a year into the panic attacks that are gonna last for the next decade. And so I am a little more hesitant to look at things very fond. You'll always look back at, times when you're closer to friends or, before loved ones passed or like, sure. And that there is merits there are merits to that. And that's a beautiful thing about memory is like you do get to hold on to these things. And there's also something to be said for, you know, maybe I'm being the edgy douchebag. Maybe other people are very aware of the flawed logic of their rosy memories, but they don't give a shit because it's a rosy memory. Like I'm sure if I went back to a Christmas when I'm 5 years old, if I could go back and witness it now, like some ghost of Christmas past, I'd probably be like, I mean, it's okay, but like whatever. The kids are annoying. But instead, it's in my mind, it's just like the most magical memory ever. Why would I want to taint that? Like in college, I used to be the douchebag. They'd be like, "You're not actually having fun. There's just ethanol binding to like your cerebrum and making you lose your inhibitions." Versus now, it's like, have a beer. Who gives a shit if it's fake? Feel warm and fuzzy and giggle. Like, what does it matter? You don't actually enjoy that. Your body's evolved to like the taste of triglycerides on your. Just shut the fuck up and eat the chicken nugget. Like it, at a certain point, like it doesn't matter. Just enjoy it. There's a beautiful rant at the end of the book, Angels and Demons by Dan Brown where he's like talking about he's like we're trying to break down sunsets into photons and wave functions and color histograms and it's like just shut the fuck up and just enjoy the sunset. And I do think there's something to be said for that. So whereas I clearly now think that I know something that others don't, and I'm like, because I kept a journal, I can go back and tell you that my memories. There's also something to be said for like, who cares if your memory is flawed? Furthermore, people are probably aware that their memory is flawed, but who cares? It's enjoyable. If you've ever had a panic attack, I mean, a true, not anxious, I mean, true, not like, ooh, I'm a little, I mean, like, you can't breathe, you can't make eye contact with anyone. You feel like at any moment you're going to burst into flames. And then you take a Xanax, and 20 minutes later, you no longer feel like that. No part of you gives a shit that you haven't actually tackled the core cause of the anxiety and that there's just some molecules binding to a GABA beta receptor in your brain or whatever the fuck it is, GABAergic or GABA antenna, whatever the fuck it is. You don't give a shit. You're not having a panic attack. No one gives a shit that coffee, caffeine's binding to adenosine receptors and thus reversing the feeling of being tired. No, it's just your morning coffee. Who cares? Have you ever smoked pot and go, "This is just molecules in my brain"? No, you're getting high, you're eating a fucking bag of cookies, and you're watching South Park and giggling. Just shut up and enjoy it. So I'm kind of defeating my own point here, actually. But so then what does it even matter if you're having a nostalgic memory? What is the so I guess I'm just criticizing myself. So what is it bad to have a nostalgic memory if you truly believe the nostalgia? And is it only okay if you then have to pass the purity test and go, "Oh, I know it's all bullshit, but I'm enjoying the memory anyway." Why does it matter? Like, do you walk into a movie theater, like a scary movie where people are jumping and go, "Are you scared?" And the person goes, "Yes." And you go, "You idiot, it's just a movie." Then you go to the next person and go, "Are you scared?" They go, "I know it's just a movie, but yeah, I'm scared anyway because I like it." You go, "Okay, carry on." What am I? Who the fuck am I? I'm acting like some weird surreal police. The point is of that entire psychotic ramblings. Jesus Christ. Um, all that to say, yeah, the Joey B. Tunes guy, like it's not an original observation that things used to look. I get it, but he did have a good point. And whereas I normally like an edgy fucking douchebag faggot, I'm always like, well, it's they only dressed well because those are the only clothes they owned. The Model Ts didn't have airbags. He did have a good point that I hadn't thought of before. You know, whereas I might say, yeah, everything has fine craftsmanship because there was no mass production of goods and everything cost more. Versus now we have economies of scale. He had a good point, and it's this: when you are surrounded by all of these, it's kind of the broken window theorem, right? Or shattered glass theorem, whatever the fuck it is. When you are surrounded by these things, when a train station looks like Grand Central, when everyone is in a three-piece suit with a polished pocket watch, does that then force you to act better and care for yourself more? And maybe that's not a unique take, but that has something that's been something that's kind of been sitting with me since like 3 a.m. last night when I saw it. I remember for years when I was really depressed and fat and doing drugs, I was like, why would I not just wear baggy sweatpants and a baggy shirt and have long, greasy hair and sleep in and not give a shit? Who cares? Life's worthless. Versus now, even if I'm not going anywhere, even if I'm not doing a podcast and it's a day off, I will still get up, take a shower, shave, clean my whole body, put gel in my hair, brush my teeth, floss, put like lotion on, put a clean shirt on, clean pants, clean socks. I'll make my bed. I'll even put cologne on. I put cologne on before the podcast. No one can smell me. But I found that there is something that happens when you start caring for yourself. Even on an off day, where I used to be like, who gives a shit if I go to Walmart and I'm wearing pajamas? Now I'm like, now I'm like, put on shoes, put on a shirt. I always used to like when I lived with my parents between 2016 and 2021, and it'd be like a Saturday, and my mom and dad wouldn't be going anywhere, but they'd be showered, hair combed, and like clean jeans on. I remember this is just 5 years ago, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Now I get it. Like for my own mental health and my own self care and own self love, like it. I know it gets a lot of shit, and I really haven't listened to any of his stuff primarily because I don't care. But I do remember Akira the Don's Meaning Wave mix about Jordan Peterson back before I'd ever known who he was. And it was the original Clean Your Room bit. And there's one line that I really liked from it, and it was just when you clean your room and you see it in its perfection, everything else in your life that is not perfect is now contrasting and sticking out like a sore thumb. And oh boy, now you're playing with fire. And it's true. You get up and make your bed crisp, clean, tuck in the sheets, put the pillows up, and it's just perfect. You open the blinds and the light's coming in. Well, now you gotta pick up the laundry on the floor. And once you do that, you're like, I can smell myself. You're like, okay, I'm not going anywhere, but all right, fuck it. You go take a shower real quick, put deodorant on, brush your teeth, put on a clean shirt. And if you already, clean yourself getting out of there, you're like, well, I've just cleaned myself. I'm well, one, it's like, let's just get in the shower and clean now because you just picked up the laundry. Might as well. And then you're in the shower, you're like, might as well shave. And then you get out and you're like, well, might as well brush my teeth. And so you put on clean clothes because you're like, well, I just cleaned myself. I'm not going to put on dirty clothes. And when you put on clean clothes, you're like, yeah, might as well put a little gel in my hair and, put some cologne on. But I've already gone 9/10 of the way. Why not go the whole way? And if I've already done this, you go out in the living room, you're like, might as well open the blinds. Like, I know I'm not going anywhere or doing anything, but might as well let the sun in. Might as well take the dishes out. And even and I don't, not even in an OCD way where you can like never stop. Not that at all, but just little shit where you start cleaning and it does have an effect. And it carries over into like the rest of your day. To even if you're just texting someone, there is something about like you do all this and you realize you have like 2 unread texts from like a podcast guest. There's part of you that's like, go to completion because everything that is not perfect in your life is now sticking out. And it's like creasing up. There's like a meta theme to it. It's like you don't make 9/10 of your bed, right? What do you do if there's one corner that's ruffled up? What do? You walk over. You don't even have to think. You already know the answer. You walk over and pull it tight and make it good. You fix the pillow. It's just what it is. You just do the thing. If the rest of your vanity is in shape, is perfectly done, but like the deodorant falls over, what do? You turn it up. It's just there you go. You do the thing, right? Like an uneven nail gets hammered or whatever the fuck. It's the same thing, but in a good manner. And it does start to bleed over into other aspects of life to where you don't even think about it. You're just like, well, I should probably answer the emails. Next thing you know, it's a day off. And that doesn't mean become a workaholic and never know how to take a break, which also took me many years to learn. But there is something about like, it's an off day. I'm not doing anything. Well, I might as well make the bed. Well, I always do that anyway. Might as well shower, clean clothes, shave, what, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, might as well answer the emails. I only have 5. Just answer them real quick. Like, might as well do this. And then that's always what leads to meditation as well. I'm like, well, if you're gonna take 30 minutes and just clean the apartment real quick, because it's easier to like maintain a clean apartment than it is to clean a dirty apartment, why would you not clean the clutter of your mind? Even if for 20 minutes, I know it's your off day, on podcast days, I normally meditate for like 30 minutes very intently because I have to have a clear mind in order to like host a podcast well. But it's like even an off day where I normally would just wake up and start playing video games. I'm like, just meditate for 10 minutes, just at the very least. You just kind of clean the clutter out of your mind, right? It's the analogy I always use is it's the rainstorm, but it's just sprinkling. Just turn on the wipers real quick. Just get it. Because if you don't, it builds up and then you can't see. And so I do think, as much as I fucking hate that observation, things used to be better. Like, okay, all right. So, like, everybody went to church in the 1600s. They also had slaves and died at 30. Like, what are we doing? They also didn't wash their balls because they couldn't. Like, so it's in some ways, I really do fucking hate that observation. But I also think that there is some value to it in that when you start to surround yourself with perfection, and that definition is completely subjective, it bleeds over into all things. You do all this shit and then you go grab groceries and you realize there's gum wrappers on the floor of your car. You take them all, crumble them up, even if you just throw them in like a plastic bag. There is something that just carries itself into that. There's just, from doing the dishes to like refilling the ice tray, there's just little perfections in all things. And it starts to bleed up. And then once it all gets equalized in everything in your life, you've kind of brought up to this next level. Well, then you're back at baseline. And so then what do you do? Because all cleaning your room really is, it's not that you're making it, it's not that you're cleaning it, it's that you're making it cleaner. You are you are a standard deviation from the norm. And what that standard deviation then does is it sticks out in contrast to everything else. So then you have to bring everything up to the norm. Take a shower, brush your teeth, blah, blah, blah. Answer the email, call someone back, blah, blah, blah. You do all the little things. Well, now you're back at an even, smooth sheet of equality and normality. Well, then what do? Eventually, you get a little curious. You've been doing it for a couple weeks, months, years, and you try to make it a little better. You're like, all right, I cleaned the room, but when's the last time I've vacuumed? And you're like, well, fuck, I don't know. I guess I haven't vacuumed in a while. And you vacuum, and you're like, well, then that leads to like the bathroom, and you're like, do I just like put the deodorant upright? Or now every Sunday, and I've been doing it for about a year and a half. Now I clear the whole vanity and actually like spray it down with Windex. So now it's like another level of clean. And again, got to be careful about a rabbit hole of OCD. But it's like, oh, now it's not just that I'm picking up the laundry on the floor. I'm also vacuuming the floor. I'm not just, you know, cleaning the counter, putting everything in order. It's like now you're actually like cleaning off the grime. It's like a deeper level, a higher resolution, right? Maybe I shouldn't just answer the emails. Maybe I should also, there's other responsibilities. Maybe I should also start putting away savings so that if one day, there's a rainy day and I get hit by some unexpected change in life, I can roll with the punches a little better. Just little things like that. Maybe I should have like an extra 20 pack of water here just in case the power goes out. Maybe I should have a flashlight. Just little, and then it keeps carrying over. And eventually you do everything. You're cleaning, you're showering, you're shaving, you're putting your clothes on. You're like, why don't I go to the gym more? Even if you just 5 minutes a day, it's still better than nothing. And you start doing that, and maybe you do that for a year or two. And then you're like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be eating like oatmeal and white bread every meal. Maybe there is something to having carrots. Ugh, it's kind of fucking gross. But then once you have your first meal of like spinach and like lean, like egg white protein, just like a little bit of salt and a lot of clean water. And then, as anyone that starts to eat healthy knows, that first wonderful shit you have, where it just comes out with zero effort, just smooth, hydrated. Wonderful. Well, then when you have that sausage, egg, and biscuit for breakfast, it now what? It sticks out like a sore thumb. So then that carries over and you start eating healthy in all ways. But now you start doing that, and the next thing you know, you start losing weight. You start seeing some abs, and you're like, geez, fucking all right. Well, then once you start seeing some abs, or you start seeing some more definition on your arm or something, or maybe not definition, maybe you actually start putting some muscle mass on your arm, right? Start getting a little some. Well, then you're like, well, why am I wearing hoodies all day? Maybe I should throw on a polo, Fucking I'm working for this. Why not? Why not wear it? And then you start to feel a little better, and you're like, oh, it kind of feels nice to dress nice, and I don't fucking hate myself. Well, and then you start to feel better, and then what does it do? Everything else starts to stick out with a sore thumb. Maybe I should go get a haircut. This is kind of fucking greasy. Oh, maybe I should go get some like jeans instead of sweatpants. Then you start working out, and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't just do bench. Maybe I should also like start doing sit-ups and stuff. Maybe I should start doing legs. Start doing cardio. Then you start doing all of that, and you're like, maybe there is something to meditation. I mean, if I'm taking care of my body and my diet, why wouldn't I take care of your mind? And then you start doing that, and then you're like, well, and then you like read a book, and you're like, I haven't learned since college. I remember like it took me like 5 years to read a book between graduating and college and finally listening to one on Audible. And you learn so much, and you realize that was only an hour a day for a week, and you're like, I just learned all about Operation Paperclip, and you're like, wait. So then you start kind of looking at all of time differently. You're like, how much of my time am I just scrolling through Instagram? Even if it's just 30 minutes a day, why don't I, instead of scrolling through Instagram and thinking, oh, this sucks, man, everybody else is happier than me, which is now sticking out like a sore thumb because you're kind of meditating more and you're becoming more aware of the internal monologue. All right. In all things, you are bringing up that a tide raises all ships or whatever the fuck. You start to notice these little things. You're like, maybe I shouldn't keep Instagram on my phone. Maybe I shouldn't keep Snapchat on my phone. Maybe I should, pull those off. Well, then you pull those off, and instead of just getting used to the feeling, because then once you've been doing it for so long, you're not even aware of the internal monologue. It's just part of your daily life. It just becomes the new norm. It becomes the average where you're like, well, yeah, now and then what I do is I lay on my side and scroll my phone for 30 minutes and look at how much happier everyone is. Once you start to clean everything else in your life, your apartment, your diet, your mind, these things start to what? Stick out like a sore thumb. And you start to go, wait, why am I doing this? So then you remove it, and you can be hesitant. And here's a perfect example. You can be hesitant to remove it because else am I going to do with that time? And the answer is don't worry about what you're going to fill with that time. You don't look at it and go, well, I've been stealing all my life. What am I going to do now if I'm not stealing? Well, hey, stealing's wrong. First, stop stealing. And now you have all this free time, and you might discover that you like architecture next, and then you go to school, and 10 years later you're at it, and then that leads to you getting married and having a family, and you're like, oh, I didn't know this was going to come from me stopping stealing, but you just start. So if you're like, well, all I do is listen to music or these like brain dead podcasts, not Tommy's podcast, that's a very informative podcast that I'll never stop listening to and supporting financially. Not quite subliminal, but well, then you're like, well, I normally scroll Instagram for 30 minutes. Well, what else am I going to do? Well, you also said you don't have time to meditate, but there's your 30 minutes. All right. Well, I normally watch Netflix for an hour a night, but I got rid of that. I don't know what else to do. I don't know. Throw on an audiobook. And it's an audiobook. You don't even have to sit down and read. You can just throw it on in the background. Go shower, go whatever. All the other stuff you're going to do. Well, I don't have time to read and do this and do that. Well, you're already taking on these other new things like cleaning your apartment, like going to the gym, like cooking healthy food. Well, there's an extra 30 minutes a day. Throw on an audiobook, but it's only 30 minutes a day. Blink and a month will have gone by, and you will have knocked out 2 historical books that normally would take you a semester to read, and you'd only do it under the fear of getting an F on a test. And now you just learned about fucking the fall of the Third Reich while you're, chopping up carrots. You're like, oh, what the fuck? You're like, that was, and now what happens? Everything else in your life that isn't perfected, isn't polished, starts to stick out with a sore thumb. So then you find yourself sitting there watching fucking whatever South Park, which is great. I mean, I'm not against it, but or you're scrolling through Reddit, just some thread about how, stupid social justice warriors are, or how bad the white man is. And you start to feel something in you. You're like, I'm not learning. You're like, I'm just looking at memes. And you're like, I could be learning something else. So then I don't know, you throw in another book. And next thing you know, it's been a couple years. And so people are like, you're well read. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But you start to notice these patterns in reading, and you're like, oh, you can learn every day. You can get something out of every day. It doesn't just have to be a hamster wheel. You can actually get something greater out of it. What was so great about humans creating speech and then writing? It's that we could pass information on to the next generation. So we didn't have to start out at scratch like animals do, where you have to teach the fucking duck how to get into the water. You have to teach the dog how to eat the food, or the cat how to chase the mouse. What happens is, well, once we've mastered, agriculture, now all of a sudden the next generation, they don't have to burn through 10,000 man hours learning agriculture. The dad tells them how to, you know how to do it. Now you've got free time to do what? I don't know, invent a wheel. Fast forward 2,000 years and you got an iPad. Like that's how it goes, is passing it on. So in that same way, you can start to pass on wisdom from yourself every day to where it's not just another Monday. Maybe you're not doing anything spectacular at work. Maybe you're not making some new massive advancement in your social life, but now you'll know a little more about the fucking Battle of Leningrad, or who Lieutenant General James Abramson is and what SDI is. And then all of a sudden you start looking at Space Force differently, and you're like, oh no, I get that. It's not just an orange man bad Trump thing. This is the natural progression, just like Harry Truman created the Air Force out of the Army Air Forces, going from World War I to World War II, and the 2 years after 1947 with the National Security Act, you go, oh, that kind of, I guess that makes sense. And then you become less of a hysteric, a hysteric partisanship retard. You start passing on these little bits of wisdom every day. So even if you don't do anything this day, Even if you don't do a new podcast and you don't go to the gym, you don't get a little stronger. You maybe just listen to 10 minutes of an audiobook. You learn a little factoid. That's one more thing that now you have tomorrow that you didn't have today. And then you start looking at the passage of time. And what in all things that you are not making good, you start to see them as bad. They stick out like a sore thumb. Well, now you've been doing this, you've been improving your life. It all started with making your bed. Next thing you know, you're fucking, you've got 6-pack abs and you're eating healthy and you're meditating, you're taking vitamins and fish oil, and you're like, well, give me more. How do I keep making this better? Just like there is no rock bottom further than death, you can spiral downwards to heavier and heavier drug use. You can ruin every relationship. You can spend every dollar. You can go into debt. You can get fired from every job. The opposite's true. You can also get better and 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 cleaner and faster and quicker and smarter and more grateful and more appreciative and harder working, and then it starts transcending into these like moral and ethical realms and these like philosophical moments of gratitude, and like life starts to become blissful. Well, then what happens is, what else in my life isn't good? What else is not polished and perfect and sparkling? Well, then you start realizing you're like, man, from last August till this August, I haven't, what if I had just been reading an audiobook a year? So then from the next August to the following August, you read an audiobook a week. And that's a year later. Now you've got 52 more books under your belt. And you have a greater grasp on reality and history. And you notice patterns of human form and behavior, even if just within your own country or throughout all time. And you're like, whoa, I wish I'd been doing that all my life, but better start now than you didn't start for 31 years. Cool. Start at 32. And then all these little things start popping up and you start to realize the time is going to go by anyway. You're on a car going down a freeway. If you hold out a piece of chalk on the road, you're going to draw the line miles and miles and miles. If you ever set out to go drag a piece of chalk miles, you won't do it. You'll get tired after 10 feet. But if you just do a little bit each day, you can start to build something up. So then you start putting away like, I don't know, like $100 a month. It was not going to add up. And then a year goes by and you're like, I've never had $1,000 in cash, but now I do. What if we did it again? What if we improved it? What if we made it better? And so whether it's increasing the resolution of your podcast or the audio fidelity or finding another platform, not just YouTube, maybe I should start uploading to Rumble on the off chance one day, not that it would ever happen, I get suspended. And now it's like, thank fuck I had something to land on. It was only, I think, 30 subscribers when I got banned from YouTube. But thank God I at least had a URL and another podcast account set up that I could at least pivot to. So there is, I think Joey Tunes was correct that when you start to surround yourself with my buddy Ivan, who's a professional I was going to say permanent bodybuilder. I guess he is a permanent bodybuilder too, but he's a professional bodybuilder. One of his favorite quotes, I think there's a Schwarzenegger quote, and it's like, we become like that with which we work. Meaning if you pump iron every day, you start to resemble iron. You become fucking rock solid. If you're a nerfed fucking couch cushion who eats, tater tots, you start to look and feel like a couch cushion made of tater tots, which is round and soft and baked. But there is something to be said for there's almost no static point. So the conclusion you come to, and this is where I am, and I could be wrong, and in years from now, I might change my thesis. But you start to realize that like there is no point on the seesaw in which you can just stay. It is either going up or it is going down. When you start to spiral downwards, if you spiral down long enough, all things will spiral down. In college, I used to drink like once a month or something, not even. And I would do it just short enough. It was one night I would get shit faced. I'd go spend a ton of money. I'd eat like a Five Guys burger and I'd wake up at like 5 p.m. the next day. I'd feel like shit. I'd be kind of anxious. And then I wouldn't sleep well the next night. But I'd always get right back to working. And so I'd never let that sort of lifestyle or mindset or all the secondary and tertiary and quaternary effects ripple throughout my life and space and time and soul. But then, after my brother died and I decided not to go to med school and I started to have more and more time and I started to do that stuff more and more, it starts to take root. And it's not just that you're going out once a month. Now it's once a week. And the more and more frequent you do it, the less and less time of rehabilitation between these moments of getting fucked up. And you start not to, the good stuff stops growing roots. Now all of a sudden you're not going to the gym as much. Now you're not taking a shower and shaving. And you don't really see it at first, but next thing you know, you're 70 pounds overweight, addicted to drugs, you fucking hate everyone, and you wanna die. And you're like, "How did I get here?" And it's scary because when you get to that point, you're, like, kind of at the bottom of this, like, hole, and it's hard to see the light at the top. And you look at who you used to be, and you go, "I can't climb out of this. I can't possibly climb out of this." And so for years, you don't really try because it seems like you can't. And then finally you start to try, but then you try to do it all at once and you get burned out and fail. You go from being a lazy sack of shit doing nothing to like doing 4 miles of cardio, working out for 2 hours and listening to an entire audiobook beginning to end, which is great. You have adrenaline. Where are you in 3 days? Where are you in 3 weeks? You've burned out and you get disappointed and you start to like learn helplessness. You start to go, oh, it can't be done. And then finally, after like 5 years of doing that, you go, the time is going to pass anyway. Where would I like to be in a year? And so you start taking baby steps. And at no point along the journey does it ever really feel like you started pushing yourself because they're baby steps. There's just one step. You just take another step, take another step, another step. Right? A 10,000-mile journey begins with a single step. And that's kind of where I started with this podcast on December 12th, 2019 was like, well, why don't I just start doing something every day and having something to show for it? Now it's almost been 3 years, and this is how I make my living. I've interviewed hundreds of the coolest people in the world. I've made a ton of friends. I've learned so much about myself. I've saved more money than I've ever saved in my life. I've lost more weight than I've ever lost. I've built more muscle than I've ever built. I've listened to 78 audiobooks in the last 14 months, which is more than I've ever read in my entire prior 3 decades. I meditate every day. I'm trying more to do like charitable works. I'm not still not good at that. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm very much in the beginning stages, and I want to limit how much I talk about that because that makes me sound like a douchebag. It's like bringing ramen to a homeless shelter. You can do it too. It's like $10. You can do it once a month. It's fine. But all these little things that sure there are moments of like fatigue or like today I have a sore throat and a headache, and I'm like, oh, so fuck, I can't do this. But for the most part, you just kind of keep bringing things up one at a time, and you keep like leveling up all moments of your life. And then one day you realize that you're not living with your parents anymore. You've been a functioning adult for a year and a half. Oh, and then here's another big one. Eventually it starts to dawn on you. You're like, everything else in life is just, you're banging on all cylinders. And then it really starts to stick out when you're hungover. And you're like, wait, what is this? Why am I cleaning the car and then throwing sludge on the windshield? So then you remove alcohol and you start removing pizza. And then the game starts to really fucking pick up and you start to hit another gear that you didn't know existed. You start to go into another one, fifth gear, sixth gear, like, what the fuck is this? I thought I was already maxed out. I thought I hit the sound barrier. And that's like when the first time like Chucky Yeager broke the sound barrier. They thought that was like humans couldn't go faster than they did Mach 1. And they're like, oh, right. And then a couple years later, it's X-15 and they're doing Mach 7. 15 years later, got Apollo doing Mach 30. And it's like, oh, the game's bigger than we thought. It's like the first time a skyscraper got built that was taller than a church steeple. And then they're like, oh, dude, we can build taller. It's the first time there was heavier than air flight. Why stop at the Wright Flyer? And next thing you know, you have an Airbus A380 and it's 2 fucking stories with 4 engines flying across the planet. You can have a shower. There are these moments where you go, oh, I'm not even at the top. I'm not even scratching the surface of like a mid level. There's still a lot in front of me. But I look at where I am now, and it's unimaginable to myself 3 years ago. But there's an exception here and there. There's never really been a moment where it felt like I was working. I was just kind of improving every little bit. Just a little bit here, a little bit there. You never really feel like you're just doing it. You never feel like you're doing all this work. You're adding a penny to a jar every day. And then after 20 years, you're like, dude, that weighs like 2 tons. And then it starts to dawn on you, you go, oh, yeah, the fat, overweight me was right. This can't be done in a day. But it was wrong in thinking that all you ever have is a day. The amount of work I can get done in a day is minuscule. Exactly. Be happy about that. You only ever have to do so much in one day. It's fucking great. Like, how am I going to walk across America? I can only walk 1 mile a day. Exactly. That's fucking great. They play like what 160 games a year in the MLB. They're only doing one a day. Sometimes they have double headers. Fuck off. But like, great. If there's only so much work you can do in a day, if you can only manage to put away $10 a day, that's a feature, not a bug. That's great. That means that's all you have to do. The time will pass anyway. And the only way the time will not pass is if you're dead, in which case it doesn't apply to you anymore. So there is beauty in that. Yes, it takes a long time to get to who you want to be. Because all I can do today is I can only walk a mile a day, do 5 push-ups, and save $1. And that's all you have to do tomorrow and the next day and the next day. The time will pass and it will be 3 years. And you'll be going, how the fuck did I get here? And I can only hope that I look back at myself in 3 years from now. And I hope I'm living an unimaginable life that I cannot relate to. And then me in 3 years will look back and say, yeah, well, I just kept doing a little bit each day. And you go, oh. And then I hope it continues from there. And it continues from there. And I hope who I am in 30 years from now is unrecognizable to my wildest imaginations. Wasn't a half bad solo rant. Started out a little choppy, a little sloppy, little poppy bush, little family of secrets, little devil's chessboard, little JFK. I don't know. Fuck it. Now I'm tired. Now I kind of do feel like shit. And that's the beauty. Because you only have to do a little bit of work each day, and then you can get into bed. I think I'm going to go get some groceries, listen to a little Timmy D, little Timmy Dillon, and hit the hay. Much love, everybody. God bless. Stay safe out.